Former President Donald Trump appears to be terrified of Taylor Swift. Hours before kickoff of Super Bowl LVIII, the most super of all the bowls, the most super ex-president of all ex-presidents, decided to take to, of course,
Truth essential,
to talk about how the superstar singer should be thanking him for making her richer and how she owes him. So here's what he wrote. I signed was responsible for the Music Modernization Act for Taylor Swift and all other musical artists. Joe Biden didn't do anything for Taylor and never will. There's no way she could endorse crooked Joe Biden, the worst and most corrupt president in the history of our country, and be disloyal to the man who made her so much money. Okay. I love how Joe Biden's not going to do anything for Taylor and never will. Wait, what? Hold on. Wait. Suddenly, what? When you're president, you have to do favors for superstars? That's bizarre. Okay. I know. His thought processes are so strange. And then, of course, there's the projection here. Oh, the most crooked, worst, and most corrupt president in the history of our country. Okay, sure. And then the disloyalty part, I'll get to that. He ended by saying, besides that, I like her boyfriend, Travis, even though he may be a liberal and probably can't stand me. So let's get to the first part, right? I don't exactly know if, hey, I made this incredibly rich person that much richer is the message you're going to want to go with. Just saying. I mean, he had the whole working class populist thing going back in 2016, right? I'm going to help the workers. I'm going to help the average people. And now he's like, I made this rich person so much richer. You should vote for me or else you're disloyal. Okay. Now, getting to the substance here. Trump was referring to a bill he signed back in 2018. Now, it did make it easier for rights holders to be paid by streaming services for their songs. Okay, that's a good thing for the music industry. Now, if you ask people who pushed the bill, however, they're going to point out that Trump basically did the bare minimum after it was passed unanimously by Congress following years of hard work by its proponents. Donald Trump, they handed in the bill and said, okay, sign it. And by the way, the industry also supported this because it had some protections in it for the industry as well. So nonetheless, it was pretty much universally praised by both artists as well as the recording industry. So there's that. Getting to the quote here from Dina Lapolte, a key attorney behind what's known as the MMA. Here's what she said to Variety on Sunday. Quote, "This claim is funny to me. Trump did nothing on our legislation except sign it. And doesn't even know what the Music Modernization Act does. Someone should ask him what the bill actually accomplished." And I doubt he can answer. It accomplished great things. The best things. Our musical artists are just the most tremendous people at putting out such great music. I love music. I love Taylor Swift. I actually like her about 25% less than I did before, but I still like her. Tremendous talent. They've all got such great talent. That's exactly how that interview would go, okay, if somebody asked him that question. Just on and on without actually answering the question. But according to a post on the Library of Congress website, which succinctly summarizes the thing, the MMA changes the way songwriters and music publishers are paid statutory mechanical royalties, which is permission to reproduce and distribute recordings when their work is streamed on interactive streaming services like Apple Music or Spotify, or sold on downloading services like Amazon Music. By the way, those are the only things that were, organizations, entities, whatever, businesses that were against the MMA. So now the law created a nonprofit entity designated by the Copyright Office called the Mechanical Licensing Collective, which collects and distributes these royalty payments to copyright owners of musical works matched to sound recordings located in its databases. So you do have to add your music to those databases so that they know that it's your music, okay? You don't have to, you're not required to, but if you do want your royalties, you will register your music with them so that they can match it up in case it's actually used by any of these streaming services. Now, the legislation, as I mentioned, was celebrated by musicians in the industry alike. So, in reality, Trump didn't make Taylor Swift any richer. The bill he signed just made sure that her and other artists like her actually got paid for their work. Now, I'm a proponent for that. I think that everybody should get paid for work that they are doing, that they've done, right? And it also prevented the streaming services from engaging in what is basically wage theft. Now, that's interesting. I want to contrast that with what Trump did for average workers, okay? Now, when he became president, congressional Republicans had just passed a bill repealing a federal rule that barred firms from getting government contracts if they had a history of engaging in wage theft, okay? Trump signed that repeal. Less than 2 weeks after repealing the wage theft measure, Trump signed another bill passed by congressional Republicans making it easier to hide workplace injuries. He also proposed giving employers more control over workers' tips, which would allow them to essentially pocket the money if they wanted to. Bloomberg Law reported at the time that the White House and Labor Department buried an estimate showing businesses could end up stealing as much as $640 million in tips from their workers as a result of this rule. So, while he's bragging about making Taylor Swift richer by allowing her to get, the money that she's earned from her music, his record is actually one of making you poorer by allowing your employers to steal your money. That is Donald Trump in a nutshell, let me tell you. So now Swift had already not been a fan of Trump for some time. Back in 2019, she wrote an article in Elle magazine saying this: "Invoking racism and provoking fear through thinly veiled messaging is not what I want from our leaders, and I realized that it actually is my responsibility to use my influence against that disgusting rhetoric." So, very unlikely for her to be endorsing Donald Trump. If she endorses anybody, it would probably be Joe Biden. Again, that's if she actually endorses anyone. We're not sure. So, but I want to get to why Trump might be terrified of the Swifties. Okay? So he thinks that if she endorses Joe Biden, that's going to mobilize people to get out and vote against him. Okay? Now, is there any truth to that? Perhaps. A recent poll from Savanta found that 1 in 6 adults actually said that they were more likely to vote if Swift or her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, encouraged them to do so. So that's 15%. 15%, I mean, look, Joe Biden could use all the help that he can get right now against Donald Trump. And so Biden's team is said to be strategizing ways to try to get her endorsement, according to an article in the New York Times. Biden wants it, which means either Trump wants it for himself or wants to try to find a way to counteract it. And so I think that's what's going on here. I think what he's trying to do is play to her class status, okay? And say, hey, I thought you were one of us. You're a rich person. I helped you get richer. How dare you even think of being against me? I am your peer. Okay? Now, is he her peer? I would say no. Look, I don't think Donald Trump is nearly as rich as he claims to be. I mean, he doesn't pay his own legal bills. He doesn't pay really any of his own bills. It always seems to fall on donors to him in his campaign, shady fundraising tactics, things like that. That I don't think he has the money to be able to pay all these legal fees. I don't think he has the money to do a whole lot. And he just claims that he's a billionaire. And again, he's really not rich. Okay, richer than me. Yeah, well, that's not hard. Okay, but nonetheless, I don't think he's nearly as rich as what he claims to be. That said, he desperately wants to be accepted by the rich, other rich and famous people. I mean, they're the only people he respects other than himself. I mean, if he were to respect anybody, it's someone who is extremely wealthy and wealthy on more or less their own merits, because I think that he knows that his money's only there because of his daddy. Okay? Not because of his own skill or his own business acumen. If he had stuck the money in a trust and did nothing, he'd actually be probably richer now than he would have otherwise, okay? Than he is now, I should say. After, all of his failed business ventures, going bankrupt 6, 7 times, however many. And so I think he just wants to be desperately accepted by other rich people because he wants to believe that he's just as good as any of them are at making money, at being rich. That's really the only metric that I think he measures people, how successful and how popular they are. And Taylor Swift is successful and popular. And so if you're in that group of people and you don't have his back, he considers you a class traitor. He considers you to be disloyal. And so that's where I think this messaging and this rhetoric towards Taylor Swift is coming from.